What's up, guys? Welcome to the Madmen Pod, where we talk about ads, marketing, and business strategies. Today, we are interviewing the CMO of Salad and Go, Nicole Portwood. Salad & Go, if you don't know, is a rapidly growing fast food restaurant. Nicole, for the record, can you tell us why you're here today?
Absolutely. I heard the podcast where you, Adeel, brought up Salad & Go as a brand to watch. And I have to say, it's so exciting to kind of witness the work that you're doing start being noticed by people out there in the world who, we haven't had any contact before, but it was a bit of a thrill. So we were excited to reach out and tell a bit more of the story.
Yeah, and for us too. I mean, we're still new, right? So this would be kind of like the 22nd or 23rd episode, depending on when it comes out. And to know that it's working and people are listening, and just the power of the internet, I guess. I mean,
it's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Obviously, we're gonna have a bunch of questions about, for Nicole, but about marketing, branding, how engagement happens for Salad & Go. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Madmen.
You're mad.
The man's mad.
Madmen.
I'm mad.
So, before we get into all the other questions, why don't you tell everyone, how long you've been with Salad & Go and what all you oversee?
Sure. I was actually on the board of Salad & Go for 9 months before joining the management team I guess it's been about a month and a half now. So I'm new to the role of CMO here, but certainly not new to the brand. And the reason I joined the board in the first place is just I fell in love with the mission and was so excited about the work I was seeing. So I decided to make the leap and join. So I oversee all of marketing, menu innovation, consumer insights, fan development, media, social, all the things that you think of when you think about any outward communication, PR, visual creative, storytelling, all that good stuff.
Love it. So it appears Salad & Go popped out of nowhere. Can you tell us about the original idea and how the brand got started?
Yeah, sure. It's actually been around for 10 years. 2023 is the 10-year anniversary. It was founded in Arizona. And so that's where all the stores first popped up 10 years ago. And it's grown significantly since then. It was built really on this idea that affordable, healthy food can be delicious and should be available to everyone. And one of the founders, Chef Daniel Patino, who's still with us today, he's a Michelin star trained chef. And he had this idea that you could take humble ingredients and fresh ingredients and turn them into something that people actually want to eat. So salad doesn't have to be this like punishing thing that you do to yourself. It can actually be, we use this word craveable a lot when we talk about our food ethos internally. He also had this really specific experience of working at a steakhouse in Phoenix where they had a Caesar salad that was really, really delicious, but I want to say it was like $30 or something insane like that. And it genuinely offended his sensibilities as a human being. And he's like, this just shouldn't be the case. So that inspiration to kind of take really great, delicious food, make it affordable and accessible to everyone, those were the founding principles, and it's still what guides us today.
I totally agree when you say craveable. There are times when I'm driving by and I know I'll take the road, or I'll be driving home and I'll specifically take the road that the Salad & Go is on because I'm often craving it. It's really phenomenal.
Isn't that amazing though? Because salad isn't one of those things you think about as a craveable. You crave like French fries and chocolate and things like that. But the idea is that as you introduce those kind of foods that nourish your body, truly nourish your body, you begin to crave them because you feel so good when you eat those things that your body's like, hey, wait, I want that feeling again. And I know exactly where to get it. And it's affordable. It's easy to get to. So yeah, it's a bit of a revolution in the way people eat. And we're really excited about it.
Yeah, well, and that's a really good point, or a good segue into the next question. So can you tell us about the unique selling points of Salad & Go and how you've been positioned, you've positioned the brand to compete in this fast food market?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, we believe people should have a choice, that it shouldn't just be fast food offers you something cheap, tastes pretty good, but isn't really great for you and is contributing to all kinds of health problems in this country. That is the fundamental truth, and it's not great. And so we think we could be part of that solution. So positioning just in terms of how a guest might see what we offer is, it's a choice. I have a choice to make about what I want to eat today, what I'm craving, what sounds good, what feels good. At the same time, we also want to make sure we have a value relative to our quote unquote competitors in the fast food space. So if you look at what a combo meal at, a burger joint might cost, it's important to us that we maintain a value proposition relative to the cost of those other alternatives, not just in the fast food space, quite frankly, but all meal choices that you have. You can go to the store and buy fresh ingredients and make a salad at home, but honestly, it's going to cost you triple what it would cost you to come to Salad and Go and get a freshly made chef-inspired salad. And you're probably going to waste a lot of the ingredients that you bought because it's going to sit in your refrigerator for however long. A bag of lettuce costs like $4.99, right?
Yeah.
And you're not using that whole thing, and it's probably not going to taste as good or be as fresh as the salad that we have to offer. So it's about choice. It's about that value proposition relative to your other meal decisions. The quality of the food is really, really, really important to us. We have this farm to fork philosophy. We work directly with farmers to source our ingredients, and then we bring those to our central kitchens where we prepare them fresh. And then everything goes to our stores within a one-day drive of our central kitchens. So that level of quality and freshness, it's got to be stuff we want to eat. That's what we want to serve to people. And then accessibility is also a big part of that. And value is a big piece of accessibility because financial accessibility is meaningful when you're talking about serving the greatest number of people possible. But that goes into our location selection as well. We want to make sure that as people are thinking about what they want to eat, we're positioned as part of that choice spectrum, right? So you'll likely see a Salad and Go next to a competitor in the fast food market. You might not see us in some of those places where you'd find the more expensive options, but we want to be available to people everywhere they're thinking about getting something quick and have them change their minds about what a delicious, healthy meal can taste like.
Absolutely. And I will say about the pricing. So my sister, I was at Salad and Go this weekend, I think Sunday, and my sister had never been. I still has. I don't know if she ended up going or not, but I was telling her about the pricing, and I was like, you can go there for breakfast. By the way, I should be getting some commission on this. But
I was just sitting here thinking, I'm talking to a real fan. Like, this is legit. I love it.
I'm seriously hooked. So you can go there for breakfast and pick up your lunch at that time, and I told her some of the pricing, like $1.89 for cold brew and, this and that. And she's like, no way. And I literally on Sunday went there, took a picture of it and sent it to her because I was getting my own meal, but I was like, she needs to, become a believer. But
it feels a little bit too good to be true. And I mean, That's great. We want people to feel that way. It isn't too good to be true, but I think that the food systems as they stand right now have kind of taught us to believe that you can't have really great, healthy, freshly made food for those affordable prices. And the fact is you can. You just have to put service at the core of your model and your mission, and you can deliver that value to people.
Yeah, and I see it. It's very no frills, and we'll probably get more into that. So next question is, look, we talk a lot about brand identity on the show, and I got to ask, what measures has Salad and Go taken to establish a strong brand identity? And then what values or principles are at the core of that brand?
Yeah. It's interesting. Before I came, so many of those brand fundamentals and the brand identity, as you would I guess traditionally call it, those were lived things. That was tribal knowledge here, right? This was like, these are the principles that the company was founded on. This is how we operate. This is how we train our people. This is the language that we use. Everything is so incredibly mission focused. I think what you actually tapped into when you brought us up in the Brands to Watch segment is that we are essentially guiding part of a revolution. And that, as far as brand identity and the role that we have to play in people's lives, is really, really fundamental to who we are and what makes us different. We believe, alongside most people, that food systems are failing us, and we can play a role in changing that trajectory and moving things in the right direction. I think that sets us apart dramatically from the rest of the landscape. You have companies like McDonald's and Wendy's and Burger King and all of those guys who've been out there for a really long time, and they are offering food for reasonable prices. I think McDonald's just came out recently with price increases in the wake of losing guests, because now even their lower income segment of guests can't afford the food that they're serving. So they're aiming for higher income guests, right? That leaves this whole tier of desperately underserved people in this country. And that's where we're focused, is offering offering a potential solution there, right? Like, we don't think we're going to save everybody. That's not at all where this is coming from. It's about choice. It's about recognizing where things are broken and about creating a brand identity around being part of that solution. Be deeply, deeply mission focused. So service is at the core of everything we do. I don't just mean serving the guest, although that's obviously our number one priority, but real like community engagement and community service. We give away about 4,000 salads a week to organizations and communities in Phoenix and in Dallas. And we don't talk about that a lot because that's not a marketing message. That's how we live our values. That's how we engage in service in the communities where we have a footprint. And it's really, really important, not only to us like corporate brand wise, but also to the people who are working the lines at our locations, who realize that what they're doing, yes, is tied to a bigger mission and a bigger value system that is actually meaningful and can change the world a little bit. I know that sounds grandiose for a drive-through salad place, but it's really what we believe.
I love that you said that you're not doing that service to then advertise it or to talk about it. It's really something that even the associates will feel as they're prepping those salads to give away. And they feel a sense of belonging and sense of responsibility in serving customers so they can continue that mission.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's in a sense, I mean, it is changing the world, but we're just starting. I guess I say we, like I'm on the.
No, you're one of us now.
But you're starting you're taking baby steps, and and we'll talk a little bit more about locations and growth. Look, I'm in the Dallas area. All the locations I've seen seem to have the same footprint. And what steps have y'all taken to ensure brand consistency and authenticity across all locations and channels?
So we definitely have a pretty sophisticated way we go about site selection and building design and all that good stuff. I will also say that the model itself, our stores are about 750 square feet. That is deliberate, and it helps us control costs so that we can deliver value to our guests. There's also the component that allows us to do that with a 750 square foot store is this vertically integrated model where we have our central kitchens where everything is prepared. There's no cooking happening in our stores. They are assembling salads fresh from ingredients that were prepared at the central kitchens. So there's a price element there in delivering that value through the stream down to the guest. But there's also, to your point, there's a real estate implication that allows us to build these very, very small footprint stores with no dine-in areas. There's no outdoor dining. In some of our earlier stores in Phoenix, we did have outdoor dining spaces on like concrete pads underneath the overhangs. We've removed all those tables and chairs, not because we don't want people to be able to sit, but that it adds cost and complexity to the model. And when you add cost and complexity, your value proposition suffers. So, I know I keep kind of going back to this, but there is a real focus on that mission, and the decisions that we're making from construction to marketing to hiring, all of that goes back to the values. I do think, and again, this is coming from a little bit of a new perspective, you've seen our buildings, and if you know what Salad and Go does, I think they do a great job of welcoming you in. I think there's a great opportunity to use some of that external real estate to tell more of our story, meaning we have breakfast burritos and cold brew and wraps and things that you might not think of when you think of a drive-through salad place. But those are opportunities, things we're building toward, things we're learning as we hear feedback from guests and enter into new markets.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing is the buffalo chicken wrap, and good. It is really good. I haven't had lunch yet. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm talking about craveable. I'm craving that. But look, locations wise, I mean, it seems like it's a good. You can replicate this model over and over. What's going to be the next boom area for you guys?
Ooh, well, we are really, really invested in Texas. Obviously, Dallas, the DFW area is a big market for us, and we have continued growth ambitions here. We have a pretty strong footprint already in Houston. We are opening up Austin and San Antonio in the next couple of weeks, which is super exciting. We've got Waco and Temple and a couple other markets kind of through the Central Texas corridor. We also have, I think, 6 stores in Vegas now. The reason I say I think is we're literally opening at least 1 store a week right now. And the plan is to just keep doing that. And then we've got our sights set on places like Colorado and Georgia and Missouri and Ohio. The idea is let's grow so that we can serve as many people as possible. There's, we were talking about brand identity and kind of like the tone of voice and how we're approaching these things. One of the things that drives a lot of this, and expansion is part of it. There's a little bit of this, like, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. That is, getting us up in the morning and being like, if we're going to really have an impact on people's health and well-being in this country, we need to bring Salad and Go to as many places as we can. And we take that mission really seriously. So expanding beyond where we are today is really important. Now, it all relies on our ability to use our central prep kitchens, our ability to source from local farmers, and then to be able to deliver those within a day's drive. There are some markets that will maybe, who knows, but as I look at the model right now, a market like New York City, for example, may always be out of reach for us because the real estate costs there are just unbelievably high. And it might be too difficult. Who knows? Who knows what the future looks like? But we're definitely focused on replicating it in places where the value model makes sense.
Awesome. So let's talk insights into your marketing strategy. What would you say are the key channels and campaigns that have been most effective in driving loyalty for you guys?
Word of mouth. I know that's like the worst answer possible because it's not something you can actually like measure or replicate. I spent 9 years as the chief marketing officer at Tito's Handmade Vodka down in Austin, Texas. And when I joined the brand, it was a very, very small brand. I stayed there for 9 years and we became the #1 selling spirit brand in the country. And we did that very much based on the power of word of mouth. And that doesn't mean that you can't do things as a brand and as a marketing function to feed the word of mouth engine. It just means that you need to really put your fans first and to think about things you can give them to engage them further and have them tell the story on your behalf. There's just nothing more powerful than advocacy from real people who really love you. And if a large part of my job is figuring out how to create that love and create that advocacy, then I think I'm doing something right. The community work that we do, that generates love in the marketplaces. It's a sort of side effect of doing things because it's important to us and because we believe in it. And then beyond that, yes, we have seen some great engagement from, traditional digital work that we've done, lower funnel, conversion-based things. Work with Snapchat has actually been really effective for us. Visual storytelling with food is always really impactful because it allows you to show beautiful ingredients. When you're launching new menu items, you can show a picture of it. It's very appetizing. And so that stuff does really work very, very well for us. But I think for what we see as kind of the next chapter, it's really digging into the fandom and helping advocates advocate for us even further. It's digging into broader storytelling media. I never know which one of those to use, that lets us tell a visual story in a compelling way. And then it's really driving that loyalty. The value proposition just seems to really resonate with people. So trial is really, really important in getting the word out to people. We had a 10-year runway in Phoenix to bring the kind of guest base that we have there. And for people all over that market to discover the brand, to kind of find out, oh my gosh, the salads are really incredible and they're huge and they're really amazingly priced. Oh, and by the way, they also have breakfast burritos. This is so great. If you look at our building, there's no reason you would think we're open at 6:30 in the morning and serve breakfast. So how part of the job really is to figure out how we fast track some of that discovery that happened organically in a market like Phoenix in a place like DFW, right? Like how do we take it from, the kind of inside track believers to a much broader audience. And again, there are echoes of that in the work that I did when I was at Tito's, where we were exporting this brand that was famous in Austin and trying to make it famous in other places. And that's what we got to do.
I think, it's going to get there. I can't help but think we talk a lot about business strategies and like how people or brands can do just small incremental things to increase their revenue. And I personally think there's some cool channels that Salad and Go can pursue. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask about a possibility of one of them.
Yeah.
But catering, like I feel like I have a company of 42 staff members, and I'd love to get Salad and Go catered for the team. Are there plans to pursue maybe other revenue strategies or catering for that matter?
Yes. I can confidently today tell you the answer is yes. We are actively pursuing catering. It hasn't been a #1 priority for us recently, but because we take in a lot of large orders through our stores, And that puts a lot of pressure on the system, puts a lot of pressure on ingredient forecasting and staffing forecasting and all of that. Catering is a great way to manage those large orders, fulfill those large orders while allowing the stores to do what they do best, which is serve customers in the moment, right? So ultimately, what we have to figure out with catering or any new channel is how do we do that in a cost-effective way that allows us to continue to deliver the value proposition? So there are some things we won't do, right? Like in-room dining in-room dining. That's not something we're exploring because it's just cost prohibitive for our model. But something like catering is I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit, like it's easy to do because, my ops counterparts would smack me upside the head. But it is, there's a lot of value in it, both for serving new customers and, letting people discover us at their office or at a party, but also in just serving more people in general.
Yeah.
So yes, we're on it.
Awesome. That's so cool. Because so would that be done at the prep kitchen side or at a store level?
I think we may have to look at new real estate capabilities there.
Okay.
Our central kitchens are well-oiled machines, and their goal is to serve the stores. So we have processes in place to do that. Still, the catering function would be served by the central kitchen as well. It would just be a bit of a different process. We don't have all the kinks worked out by any stretch, but it's kind of a next up on the priority list.
That is awesome. Well, you guys heard it first. Saladin Go's pursuing catering.
I hope I don't get in trouble for that one, but I think it's okay to mention.
You had mentioned Snapchat, and I always think back to like which brands are doing social media really well and creating a community. I think your value proposition, you're right, that itself gets people talking. But then when you see what La La Land and Dutch Bros have taken, they humanize that brand in a very unique way. How are you guys leveraging social media to really connect with that target audience and then promote the value prop that you talked about?
Yeah, you caught me on a good day. I actually just had a 2-hour working session with my director of social media right before this call because it is such a fundamentally important channel. Both the content that you're creating, the fans that you're engaging with, the voices that you're leveraging to build equity or to draft off of their equity. That stuff is really, really important. It's still... It's evolved so much. And, I'm come from way, way, way back in the day when we were faxing insertion orders to Rolling Stone, right? So like the evolution of the media landscape is something I've had a front row seat to. And social, I think the original advent and what we all found so exciting was that it was this place for people to connect, right? It was having two-way conversations in the digital space where your influence went from the 20 people you know and speak to on a regular basis to the 2,000 people who seem to care what you have to say about things. And that dramatically changed how we engage with people and the scale at which we can do that. There's been, I think, a shift. Not that connection piece doesn't exist anymore, because it certainly does, but certainly with younger generations, what I've observed is that the shift is not just in the two-way connection piece, but also as an entertainment medium, right? I have children and they are on social, but they use it almost the way I watched TV when I was a kid, where it's an entertainment platform. And I'm scrolling through TikTok for 30 minutes, watching bite-sized pieces of content versus sitting down and watching a 30-minute television show. And I think that mind shift and how brands show up in that space, knowing that it is an entertainment platform, I think is something we all have to take into consideration when we look at our social media strategies. So yes, there is still the two-way conversation. There's the contextual value that we can provide to people, whether that's through entertainment, education, rallying cry, whatever it might be around our value system. And I also think one thing that we're really, really focused on is listening to people. So we get comments on all our social posts, and that's great. And we're in a unique position, the way our business is structured, and most folks in the service business, where you're creating a quick turn product, where we can react to that. And so I can't tip my hand too much on this one, but we're bringing back some fan favorite menu items. And it is almost exclusively based on the engagement we got on social media, both when we introduced those items and people were super excited about it. And then when we took them away and people were not excited about that and let us know how upset they were about it. So that's a big part of it. And then, just finding ways to engage in culture. I think it's always a struggle because you have to look at it through the lens of your brand and your voice, where it makes sense for you to show up, how you can interpret a cultural moment through your own lens. And so our team, I think, shout out to them. They're actually pretty amazing at this. We just did a free drink promo around the World Series. It just so happened that the two teams in the World Series were Phoenix and Dallas, and that's where we have our two biggest markets. So we had kind of a friendly competition going, and then did a free drink offer around the winning team, which happened to be the Rangers. And those sorts of opportunities, like social gives you the platform to do that at scale, to engage in the conversation in a meaningful way. And that I think is the key. It's got to be in a meaningful way.
Absolutely. So look, we've talked about the value prop a few times now. Yeah. I really want to bring to light some of these prices. Okay. And Nicole, you got to promise me that just because I'm talking about these prices, you guys don't go back and say, oh, let's raise the price a little bit. But fresh salads, it's a $6.42 for a salad. Drinks are $1.29, and they're not just like sodas. Like you guys don't do soda.
No, we make all of them in-house. All of them.
House-made lemonade, Arnold Palmer's, there's iced tea, cold brew, and then hot coffee, $1.49. That seems to be new. Breakfast from $3. There's a value prop. Like you could have just rounded up to, instead of $6.42, you could say, hey, $7, and people will probably still pay it. But what's the strategy that you guys are doing to like create these unique price points and really get people to be like, this is a no-brainer?
Yeah, it's a lot of it is just a function of what does it cost us to run the business. And I mean, obviously, we're a business, right? We need to make some money so that we can continue to grow and be a business. So, how do I say this in a nice way? Not ugly, but I think some companies out there charge what they can get away with charging. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. And that's not really how we think about the cost of our service. We think about it relative to other meal choices that people have, and again, not just in the fast food space, but across everything. And we actually look at price index for food away from home, for food at grocery stores, and then in the fast casual and QSR spaces to benchmark where do we fall. And we have a principle of being a value versus all of those. And the goal is to remove barriers to healthy eating, like full stop. And we do that with the price, with the accessibility and the drive-through model, and with how delicious it all tastes. That's, if it doesn't taste good, nobody's coming back. That's just the truth of it. And you've experienced it yourself. Buffalo chicken wrap. I had a jalapeno ranch salad yesterday that knocked my socks off. Like, the stuff is amazing. And so if you take away the barriers, we really think with this kind of choice, people are going to come back. We also, I mentioned the vertical integration. That's a big, big part of it, working directly with farmers and sourcing everything, getting it directly into our central kitchens, using every part. I'm going to get way in the weeds here, so just go with me on this journey for a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Our chef is really focused on not wasting things. He comes from humble beginnings, as a lot of us do, and knows that, waste is a bad thing. So we actually used the whole head of romaine, whereas a lot of salads will only use the inner leaves, which are tender and sweet. We use the whole thing. And so that's some of the darker green that's on the outside. And chef created the dressings specifically to balance some of the more bitter, irony notes of the outer leaves of the romaine. Wow. So that philosophy permeates literally everything. And then finally, one thing that I do think is a differentiator is that all of our stores are company owned. So we don't have franchisees. And so we control pricing up and down. There's not, any other parties who are making those decisions or putting pressure on us to raise prices so that they can independently, make more profit. That's all controlled centrally.
That's phenomenal. So I noticed you guys aren't on Uber Eats, DoorDash, etc. On your website, you can order from beforehand, but no delivery. What was the strategic discussion in not pursuing delivery?
It's a hard one because one of our core values is accessibility, right? I know I've said that word 1,000 times, forgive me. And we realize that delivery opens up accessibility to a whole lot of people who might not drive by or can't drive or whatever the case is. And so it's something we are looking at and thinking about. One of the challenges with a lot of those third-party platforms is that there's significant cost, and that cost is typically passed along to the guest. And so philosophically, we want to be able to live up to the value of accessibility while still maintaining our value proposition. And, ultimately, there is truth in that some customers are willing to pay a premium for the convenience of delivery. I am certainly guilty of that. Like, yes, I'll pay 6 times the cost of the cup of coffee because I'm lazy and I don't want to get up right now, right? Like, I know that thought process happens all the time, but it's something we don't take lightly. And we sort of wrestle with the cost value proposition of doing something like that. But we're thinking about it.
I still think like I will go out of my way because I think, delivery in a sense, you do see some inflated prices when you do go on Uber Eats. Like what you usually pay at Chick-fil-A, for example, is a little bit higher on the delivery side than it was, and you still pay that delivery fee. And I think it seems like that might be a driver as well, as like, how do we just make sure that just keep the cost as low as possible if people want it. And I've never had to wait either at Salad and Go. Like there's 2 lanes to really, I mean, I deserve a board seat after this, Nicole.
I'll see what I can do. Let me have some conversations, Adeel.
But there's like no wait. So, I mean, it's never inconvenient really, but it's interesting because everyone is going delivery. I'm sure there'll be something you guys work out to address that.
It will. And, you mentioned the mobile order ahead function that we have, and we have mobile pickup windows that enable that to make it a little bit more seamless for sure. There's also been a lot of conversation lately about the rise of the drive-through and how that is even, dare I say, a less interactive experience than delivery can be sometimes because you have to deal with a delivery person. There was a great article in the New York Times last week, I think it was, about the rise of drive-through and kind of what it says about us culturally and this desire to sort of be insulated from human contact unless it's by choice. Surely a lot of that is in the wake of COVID. We all realized like, oh, it's nice to not have to deal with people all the time. But I have a remarkable team, and there's a young woman on our team who's firmly Gen Z, and she had a really, really interesting perspective on the value of drive-through and the role that it plays with her and her peer group. And it was the way she said it was so great. She's like, young people, particularly like younger teenagers, they don't have a lot of spaces that are theirs, like privately theirs. And the car is one of those spaces where there's no parents, no adults, no authority, no nothing. This is my space. And so she talked about when she was a little bit younger, she and some friends would get in the car, go to the drive-through, pick up what they wanted, and then go sit in the car in the parking lot, jam out to their music, eat the food, make jokes, laugh. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that never occurred to me. But hearing it come directly from someone who's living and breathing that culture, I thought, what an interesting way to think about the intersection of a sort of deliberately created private space for a person and the services that enable it. Right? It's just fascinating stuff.
We've talked a lot about ideas already, like catering, and and it seems like you guys are thinking about a lot of things. But when I was preparing for this interview, I thought of another unique opportunity for Salad and Go, and everyone's talking about the rise of GLP-1 drugs and how it's really has already started making an effect on fast food restaurants. Ozempic, Wegovy, and Manjaro are growing in popularity. And really what their drug does is it mimics a hormone to trigger a feeling of being full. And also has helped people make healthier food decisions. I was looking at 70% of users have said that they have decreased their consumption of fast food. KFC, McDonald's, and Krispy Kreme have already started to consider changes to their menu offerings because of this. What sort of discussions have y'all had about the usage of these drugs and maybe it becoming more common, and maybe even potentially bringing more people to Salad and Go?
Yeah, it's definitely been a subject of conversation. I will say it's still such early days with these medications, and there's so much that's unknown about the long term, right? And so health and well-being are at the center of everything that we do. What I do think is interesting to consider is that as people are eating less, hopefully, there's an understanding that the food you do eat does need to be more nutritionally dense so that you're getting what you need to live and thrive, right? So whereas if you used to eat 5 meals a day, you could afford for 3 of those meals to like not be really nutritionally great for you as long as you were getting a little bit in the in-betweens. Now, if you're maybe eating 1 meal a day, it's really, really important that you're getting vitamins and minerals and protein and all these things that you need to survive. The other thing that I think is something to keep an eye on is that even with insurance coverage, what being what it is, these medicines are still likely to cost $1,000 a month, putting them way out of reach for the vast majority of people in this country. And quite frankly, for a lot of people who need additional choices in their food pantheon on a daily basis. So it's something to watch. I don't know that I can say we have like a firm stance that this is exactly what we expect it to deliver, but there is clearly a desire, not just in this country, but around the world, to increase access to things that support health and well-being. Yeah. And if these drugs can do that for people and can reset their cravings and, guide them toward healthier choices, then I'm all for it. And we will absolutely be there for them.
That is awesome. Well, I really want to thank you, Nicole, for your time. This was phenomenal. I truly enjoyed it. We did do this over the lunch hour, so I'm going to go get some salad and go after this. But really, thank you. I truly enjoyed this.
Thank you, Adeel. This was such a pleasure. Really, I'm in the presence of a fan, and that means a lot to me. It really does, to meet like a real live person who loves what we do. I would love to grab a salad with you someday and just say thank you. I really, really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share more of our story with you, and appreciate you being an advocate for what we're doing. It means a lot.
Absolutely. And I will take you up on that salad one day.
Let's do it.
All right. Cheers. Stay fabulous, guys.
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Madmen.
You're mad.
The man's mad.
Madmen.
I'm mad.